Andre Ward and Guillermo Rigondeaux versus biased, hypocritical boxing fans. Now this video is partially a follow-up to the previous video I uploaded, which was about Rigondeaux being stripped of his world titles. And in that video, I touched on the fact that the other champions in Rigondeaux's division have been blatantly ducking him. And it's really not up for debate. It's about as blatant as ducking could possibly get. But not only that, also the would-be mandatory challengers for Rigondeaux's world titles have also been ducking him. And in fact, that's why Rigondeaux and his team intend to sue the WBO, because the WBO did not provide them with mandatory challengers to fight. And the WBO, in their own statement, have come out and basically said that we can't force people to fight you. So here we have Guillermo Rigondeaux being blatantly and shamelessly ducked by the other champions in his division, as well as his would-be mandatory challengers, through no fault of his own. And yet there's a sizable contingent of idiotic, biased, and deeply hypocritical so-called boxing fans out there who have seen fit to give all these fighters who are shamelessly ducking Rigondeaux a pass and not even aim a single sentence of criticism towards those fighters, and instead lay 100% of the blame for Rigondeaux's current predicament squarely at Rigondeaux's own feet and his team's own feet. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is beyond absurd. You have to have some deeply dubious motives for doing something like that. Do I think that Rigondeaux's poor business decisions have contributed to the predicament that he's in? Absolutely. But that does not absolve these fighters out here, numerous fighters, who have been blatantly ducking him, of any blame. They should still be getting the majority of the blame for Rigondeaux's situation. Absolutely. It's not his fault that they're ducking him. Are there things that he could do to try and, make his chances of getting fights with them better? Are there certain business things he could do? Yes. But again, he is not the one to blame for the fact that those guys feel motivated to avoid him. He's not to blame for that, because they've come out and publicly stated what their reasons for avoiding him are. They're not business reasons. They're avoiding him, as Eddie Hearn and Barry McGuigan have already said, because our guys are not ready for Rigondeaux. He's too good right now. Our fighters are not good enough for him yet. They're to blame for that. And you should be leveling the majority of the criticism for Rigondeaux's current predicament at those guys. And maybe, 80% of the criticism for them, maybe 20% for Rigondeaux's poor business decisions. Now, there was an individual in the comment section to that video who was criticizing Rigondeaux and predictably didn't have a single sentence of criticism for Leo Santa Cruz, for Carl Frampton, or for Scott Quigg. Ain't that some shit? 100% of the criticism for the guy who's being ducked, and 0% criticism for the guys doing the ducking. Unbelievable. Anyway, this guy said that instead of sitting around sulking, Guillermo Rigondeaux should do what Gennady Golovkin did and go out there and fight his mandatories and all the other contenders instead, since the other champions won't fight him. Well, I've already addressed the fact that Rigondeaux's mandatories have refused to fight him, so that's off the table right away. He can't fight his mandatories. They're not on it. So he can't do what Golovkin was doing in that regard. But I'm glad that you mentioned Golovkin, because this allows me to do a very simple and effective comparison, which will expose the hypocrisy on display here from a lot of these so-called boxing fans. When Golovkin was being ducked by the likes of Peter Quillin, you guys who were criticizing Rigondeaux, you didn't give Peter Quillin a pass. You were tearing into Peter Quillin for ducking Golovkin, and rightly so. I was tearing into Peter Quillin too. You were not blaming the fact that a Golovkin-Quillin unification wasn't happening on Golovkin's business decisions. Because at the time, I mean, Golovkin's still with HBO now, but at the time, HBO and his promotional outfit, K2, they didn't have many middleweights. And the other champions were with different promotional outfits or on different networks. You weren't blaming Golovkin for not being on those networks. No, you were putting 100% of the blame on the likes of Peter Quillin and the other champions at the time. And rightly so. All I ask for you is to be consistent, which it seems to be beyond some of you guys. You just can't be consistent. Because when it comes to Rigondeaux, now all the excuses come out. Oh, it's his bad business decisions. That's why blah, blah, blah. You can't blame the other fighters because blah. What? You weren't saying this when Quillin was ducking Golovkin. You weren't taking Quillin's side. You weren't absolving Quillin of blame. No. You were tearing into him. But yet here with Rigondeaux, shh, don't say no word of criticism about Santa Cruz or Scott Quigg or Carl Frampton. Not a single sentence. All the blame has to go to Rigondeaux and his bad business decisions. That is shocking levels of bias and hypocrisy, people. And to be doing stuff like that, your motives have to be very dubious. There's no question about it. And I'll get onto that later on in the video. I also want to talk about Andre Ward because he has also come up for an inordinate amount of unfair criticism. Again, Andre Ward is someone who, in my opinion, has made some very poor business decisions. But the criticism that he gets from some people, from a large contingent of so-called boxing fans out there who are just idiots at the end of the day. They're not people that have any objectivity in them at all. They're deeply biased. And when it comes to Andre Ward's achievements, they turn a blind eye and they criticize him on every little thing that he does. Let's look at the bones of contention they have with Andre Ward. They claim that Andre Ward drained Chad Dawson. This is something they're still bringing up all these years after the fact. They claim that Ward drained Chad Dawson. No, he didn't drain Chad Dawson. If you want to criticize a man for something, at least be truthful. Don't start making up garbage. Chad Dawson, after his fight with Bernard Hopkins, after his rematch with Hopkins in a post-fight interview, he called out Andre Ward and said he will fight Ward at 168. Ward didn't make that a stipulation. He didn't call out Dawson and say, come fight me at a catchweight or come fight me at 168. He didn't do that. Dawson called him out and he said, I'll come down to 168 to fight you. The only thing Andre Ward did in that situation is accept the challenge. That's all he did. And remember, by Chad Dawson moving down to 168 to fight Ward, that meant that Chad Dawson's light heavyweight titles were not on the line. This ain't no bullshit situation like we're having with Cotto Canelo or when Pacquiao fought Margarito, where our world titles on the line and the people contesting the world title were not even fighting at the division weight limit. This ain't like that. This is a situation where a light heavyweight champion issued a challenge to a super middleweight champion and said he's willing to come down to that guy's weight. And the super middleweight champion said, cool, come down to my weight, I'll fight you. I'll take you up on that challenge. It's nothing that Andre Ward stipulated. So stop acting as though Andre Ward deliberately drained the guy. No, the guy voluntarily drained himself and came down knowing that he wouldn't be risking his own titles. He'd only have Ward's titles to gain. So keep it real, please. Another thing they blame Andre Ward for is the rematch with Carl Froch not happening, which is another absurd criticism, which is not based in any type of reality. Andre Ward was trying to make that rematch for years with Carl Froch. Carl Froch is the one who didn't want the rematch. He didn't want no parts of Andre Ward. Why? Because he knows he can't beat Andre Ward. He came out publicly and admitted that if he fights Andre Ward again, Ward's going to beat him again. He's admitted this publicly several times. So there's no question who's the better fighter. There's no question who wanted to fight more out of Froch and Ward. Clearly, it was Ward that wanted the rematch more. Carl Froch relinquished his WBA belt after the WBA mandated Ward and Froch to fight each other earlier this year. Was it earlier this year or was it last? I think it was earlier this year. It was. And yeah, they mandated Carl Froch and Andre Ward to fight each other because Carl Froch was the WBA regular champion. Ward was a super champion. And Ward said, all right, let's go. I'll fight you in the UK even. Carl Froch said, no, you have to fight me in Nottingham. And Ward said, I'm not going to fight in Nottingham because the first time we fought, that was in the USA, but it wasn't in Oakland. It was thousands of miles away in Atlantic City. So why the hell should I fight you in Nottingham? You do remember I actually beat you first time around, don't you? So I'm making a concession here, but the fact that I've beaten you, but yeah, I'm still willing to come to your country and fight you in your country. All I ask is that I don't fight you in your backyard, in your hometown, because I didn't fight you in my hometown. That's a perfectly reasonable compromise. But yet Carl Froch was like, nope. And the WBA stripped Carl Froch of his title. Rightly so, because he didn't want no parts of the Andre Ward rematch. That's the truth. Yeah? Anything else, you try to say anything else, you're just deluding yourself. Because that's the truth. So these are just two of the ridiculous criticisms that Andre Ward has come up against. Another one of the ridiculous criticisms is that Andre Ward has been picking on smaller fighters like Golovkin. First and foremost, Andre Ward never picked on Golovkin. Get your facts straight. Golovkin, or his team, issued a challenge to fight anybody from 154 to 168. And just like happened with the Dawson situation, all Andre Ward did was answer the challenge. Yeah, Golovkin's team came out and said, we're ready for anyone from 154 to 68. Ward came out and said, okay, I'm ready for you. All of a sudden, Golovkin starts talking about catch weights. No criticism from you guys who are criticizing Ward and criticizing Rigondeaux. No criticism for Golovkin for talking about catch weights after him and his team issued a challenge for anyone between 154 and 168. Ain't that something? What kind of hypocrisy has to be going on inside some of you people to be doing stuff like this? All Ward did was respond to a challenge. He didn't call out someone smaller than him. He responded to a challenge. And then Golovkin started talking about catch weights. No criticism for Golovkin, all the criticism for Ward. Unbelievable. Now, as I say, Ward has made some poor business decisions. He's signed with Rock Nation now. He had a fight against Paul Smith, which was a very poor fight. Okay, I criticized him for that fight. Now he's taking on some unknown Colombian who's like 23-1 or something like that for his first official fight at light heavyweight. Am I happy about that opponent? No, but I'm also looking at the big picture here. Andre Ward has just signed I believe a 3 or 4 fight deal with HBO, which will culminate in a fight with Sergey Kovalev. So all the while you're tearing into Andre Ward again, you're totally missing the fact that this guy has signed up to fight Kovalev. No credit for doing that. None. But massive criticism for the guys he's fighting up, fighting in the lead up to the Kovalev fight. Ain't that something? This guy's moved up a division to take on Kovalev. Not at a catch weight, not telling Kovalev to move down, going up to 175 and signing up to fight Kovalev. Is Golovkin doing that with Ward or with anyone? No. But no criticism for that, even though him and his team said they'd fight anyone from 154 to 168. Golovkin is the guy who's chasing down smaller fighters. He was already calling out Pacquiao and Mayweather. He's been calling them out. Smaller guys. No criticism for that. The hypocrisy here is unbelievable, people. So yeah, Andre Ward, of course he deserves to get criticized for some things. But most of the stuff he's being criticized for is just totally ridiculous. And he's not getting any credit for the stuff that he's done. This guy did clean out the division, by the way, people. He did beat people like Carl Froch, Mikkel Kessler, when these were the major players at 168 pounds, hands down. Have you forgotten all about that? Froch did duck the rematch, by the way. Have you forgotten all about that? The WBA did strip Froch for refusing to fight Andre Ward earlier this year. Have you forgotten all about that? Give me a break, people. Now, why do we have this disproportionate criticism of people like Andre Ward and Guillermo Rigondeaux from this particular section of the boxing community? Well, I can only speculate, but I see a pattern with certain people that I see online and commenting on my videos, certain individuals. I definitely see a pattern. And it's a very disturbing pattern. And I've mentioned in previous videos that there is a lot of racial bias in boxing. There are black people who follow Floyd Mayweather and like Floyd Mayweather simply because he's black and successful. And anyone who is not black, who criticizes Floyd Mayweather in any way, no matter how valid the criticism is, they will instantly label that person a racist. And if a black person criticizes Floyd Mayweather in any way, no matter how valid it is, they will instantly label that person a hater or an Uncle Tom or a sellout, no matter how, like I say, valid that criticism is. This is because of racial bias, and a lot of Mayweather fans have this kind of racial bias, but it's certainly not limited to just black people having racial bias. No, 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 no. Don't delude yourself or try and kid anyone else into thinking that that's the case. No, there is a massive amount of white boxing fans out there and Filipino boxing fans out there and whoever else who have a massive bias towards people of their own skin color, from their own culture, or what have you. And also, even more disturbingly, a bias against people of a different race or a different skin color or ethnicity. And there are certain people, I'm telling you right now, it's very disturbing, who I see commenting on my videos, who clearly are far more critical and harsh towards black fighters than they are towards non-black fighters. Whether these people are doing this consciously or is a subconscious thing, I don't know. Maybe it's a response to some of the racist black people they've accounted on the internet who are biased, you know, for black fighters, and they're counteracting it or whatever. I don't know whether it's that, whether it's just something inherently in these people, whether it's just how they are in their personal, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But there is no question that a massive amount of the bias criticism being aimed at people like Guillermo Rigondeaux and Andre Ward does have its roots in racial bias and racial prejudice. It does. It's sad to say, but this is the reality. Racial bias and racial prejudice is there. It's certainly within the boxing community. It's certainly within the YouTube boxing community. All I ask of people is just to look beyond all that. There are plenty of fighters I don't like, but when they do things which are praiseworthy, I praise them. There are plenty of fighters out there who I do like, but when they do things which warrant criticism, I criticize them. Nobody gets a pass from me. I don't care if you're from my hometown. I don't care if you're from the same country, the same island, the same exact street as me. I don't care. I'm not going to treat you with any less scrutiny than anybody else. No fighter in my books, is below praise, and no fighter is above criticism. I wish more people took that as an example, because boxing, the boxing ring is like a battlefield, and all men are equal in that boxing ring, man. They're all equal in terms of they got 2 arms, 2 legs, and they're coming to fight. So forget about the color and all that stuff. Let's just see who the best man is. Most people just, I don't want to say most people, but a hell of a lot of boxing fans out there just can't do that. And yes, a lot of you listening to this who are constantly criticizing people like Ward and Rigondeaux, but giving Frampton, Quigg, and Golovkin and all these other people no criticism. It's racially motivated. It just is. For a lot of you people, it is. You don't think I've noticed? I have noticed a pattern with some of you guys. Whenever it's a black fighter, loads of criticism. Whenever it's a non-black, it doesn't necessarily have to be a white fighter, but when he's non-black, there's far less criticism from certain individuals out there. That is disturbing. Are you really that, insecure that you have to come down that hard on black fighters more so than everyone else just because there happen to be, of course, there are contingents of racist black fans out there in the YouTube boxing community. I'm well aware of them. I've had run-ins with them myself. But why are you sinking down to their level and vice versa? Some black boxing fans who see the idiocy from a lot of these, white or non-black boxing fans who clearly have racial motivations behind a lot of the things that they say. Why are you black boxing fans sinking down to their level? You can't defeat your enemy by sinking down to his level, because then you become just like your enemy. You become just like the thing that you're fighting. People need to get over this stuff, man. And I'm telling you, as sad as it is, unfortunate as it is, I can't see any other way than the majority. I'm not saying all of it, but the majority of the really vigorous, vicious criticism of people like Ward and Rigondeaux is racially motivated. Again, I'm not saying that they're beyond criticism. No fighter is beyond criticism. And certainly Ward and Rigondeaux have made plenty of poor business decisions. And maybe there is an element of ego also which plays into their predicaments. But particularly in Rigondeaux's situation, to not be talking at all about the guys who are ducking him and only be pointing fingers at Rigondeaux, you've got to be deeply biased to do something like that. Fix up. Lord God. And another thing I saw in the comment section, which really disturbed me, is some individual who's one of my longtime subscribers, and he seems to be reacting to something some black person has said on YouTube. This guy's basically trying to insinuate that there is no racial bias against black people in boxing. There's racial bias against all people in boxing. What are you talking about? If you want to criticize Ward for certain things, do it consistently across the board with all fighters. Don't pick and choose who you're going to have certain standards for, because that's what a lot of you guys are doing. Be consistent. Yeah? Anyway, man, I'm out.